In 2007, Tony Mokbel was arrested in Athens, Greece, ending a global manhunt that had gripped the nation. But his journey to becoming one of Australia's most infamous criminals began much earlier, in the suburbs of Melbourne. In this video, we'll explore how he built a multi-million-dollar drug empire, examine his hidden role in Melbourne's deadly gangland wars, and uncover the details of his bold escape overseas. We'll follow the dramatic arrest that brought him down and his long fight from behind bars, including surviving a near-fatal prison attack. We'll also explore how Mokbel's case reshaped Australian policing, the courts, and public perception. Tony Mokbel's move from petty crime into high-level drug trafficking marked a turning point not only in his life, but in the structure of organised crime in Melbourne. By the early 1990s, Mokbel had grown tired of low-level scams and minor police attention. He began looking for bigger opportunities, and the drug trade provided exactly that. Initially, he started small. Mokbel was suspected of sourcing ephedrine, a chemical used in cold medications but also a crucial ingredient in the manufacture of methamphetamine. With Australia's growing demand for party drugs, he saw a lucrative market that could be tapped with relatively low risk, at least in the early stages. He began building supply chains with trusted partners drawn from various organised crime networks and groups within Melbourne's criminal underworld. These alleged alliances gave Mokbel the muscle and logistical support needed to expand. His charm and natural business acumen helped him win the loyalty of key figures, and he quickly positioned himself as more of a financier and strategist than a street dealer. Mokbel wasn't just making drugs. He was also laundering money, investing in real estate, and disguising his profits through seemingly legitimate businesses. His early fronts included a pizza shop, automotive workshops, and betting agencies. He also began appearing at racetracks, placing large bets and developing a reputation as a flashy punter. By the late 1990s, authorities suspected that Mokbel was operating one of the most profitable drug enterprises in the country. But at this point, they had little concrete evidence. He kept his hands clean, delegated operational tasks to lieutenants, and kept layers between himself and the product. It was a sophisticated criminal model, one that would only grow in scale over the coming years. Mokbel's shift into drug trafficking reflected a broader trend of organised crime evolving into more sophisticated and profitable enterprises, presenting new challenges for law enforcement. By the early 2000s, Tony Mokbel had established himself as one of Australia's leading methamphetamine traffickers. Unlike many contemporaries involved in violent turf disputes, Mokbel managed his drug operations with a structured, business-like approach. His organization was dubbed the Company by police and media, a network described as operating more like a cartel than a typical street gang. At its peak, Mokbel's enterprise was believed to be responsible for trafficking hundreds of kilograms of methamphetamine across Victoria and beyond. Authorities alleged his network was linked to multiple clandestine laboratories, some operating out of suburban homes, others in more remote rural properties. Each lab was managed by trusted chemists and overseen by lieutenants who answered directly to Mokbel or his inner circle. What made the company particularly effective was its use of compartmentalization. Distributors didn't know suppliers. Couriers didn't know financiers. This minimized the risk of the entire operation being exposed if one part was compromised. Mokbel also adopted encrypted phones, coded language, and frequent burner devices to communicate with his associates, a technique that would become standard in later organised crime cases. Authorities would later allege that some of his betting activity, particularly at high-profile horse races, was another way to cycle illicit funds into clean capital. As his empire grew, Mokbel began recruiting individuals from all walks of life: bikies, former police officers, businessmen, and even lawyers. His network wasn't built solely on fear, it was also built on loyalty, financial rewards, and the promise of protection. Despite his attempts to keep a low public profile, law enforcement began to close in. Operation Piranha, formed to investigate the gangland killings, soon uncovered that Mokbel wasn't just financing drug deals. He was one of the key architects of Melbourne's underworld economy. The use of compartmentalization and encrypted communications in Mokbel's organization demonstrated an advanced level of operational security that complicated police efforts to dismantle such networks. To understand Tony Mokbel's rise to power, it's essential to place him within the context of the Melbourne Underworld War, a violent and chaotic period between the late 1990s and mid-2000s. This conflict, also known as the Gangland Wars, claimed over 30 lives and involved a tangled web of rival factions, revenge killings, and shifting alliances. While Mokbel was not typically seen on the front lines of this violence, he played a significant behind-the-scenes role. Unlike street-level enforcers or hitmen, his power came from wealth, influence, and control over critical resources, mainly funding, legal support, and infrastructure. Mokbel was seen by police as a key enabler in the rise of Carl Williams, reportedly bankrolling his drug operations and helping keep his associates out of jail. In turn, Williams and his faction provided muscle, territory, and loyalty. During this time, Mokbel was believed to have assisted various figures by providing bail money, lawyers, and even safe houses. He was also suspected of having knowledge of various underworld crimes, but he was never charged or convicted in connection with them. Though never convicted in relation to these deaths, intelligence reports consistently named him as a significant figure connected to the violence. Mokbel's strategy was one of calculated alignment. He maintained ties to multiple sides, often switching allegiances when it served his interests. While this allowed him to profit from the chaos, it also made him a target. By the mid-2000s, his name was increasingly linked to both the drug trade and the spiraling violence engulfing Melbourne. For law enforcement, this marked a turning point. The Purana Task Force, initially formed to address the killings, shifted its attention to the structures supporting them, bringing Mokbel squarely into their sights. His influence, though less visible than others, had become too significant to ignore. The violent Gangland Wars had a profound impact on public safety, prompting significant legal reforms and the establishment of specialized police task forces. In August 2001, Mokbel was charged with drug trafficking following a major investigation. But it was his 2005 arrest that led to the most notorious chapter of his story. Facing serious charges and the possibility of life imprisonment, Mokbel was granted bail, a decision that would soon prove disastrous for authorities. In March 2006, just days before his trial, Mokbel disappeared. It soon became clear that he had fled Australia using a false passport. His escape triggered an extensive manhunt involving multiple law enforcement agencies, including state and federal police and international bodies. For more than a year, his location remained unknown, leading to widespread speculation. In reality, Mokbel had fled to Greece, where he was living under an alias in a suburb of Athens. He maintained contact with his family and reportedly continued managing parts of his drug empire remotely. Mokbel's ability to secure bail despite serious charges, and his subsequent escape, exposed weaknesses in the justice system that led to calls for stricter bail provisions. For over a year, he lived as an international fugitive, sparking one of the most high-profile manhunts in Australian law enforcement history. Australian Federal Police worked closely with Greek authorities and Interpol to track his movements. On June 5, 2007, Greek police raided a luxury apartment in Glyfada and arrested Mokbel without incident. He was found with false identification documents and cash. His arrest made headlines across Australia and was seen as a major breakthrough for law enforcement. However, extraditing him back to Australia proved legally complex. Mokbel fought the extradition in Greek courts for nearly a year, arguing he wouldn't receive a fair trial due to the intense media coverage. Despite these efforts, he was ultimately returned to Australia in May 2008. Following his 2012 conviction and sentencing to 30 years in prison, Tony Mokbel was transferred to Barwon Prison in Victoria, a maximum security facility known for housing some of Australia's most dangerous criminals. Prison life for Mokbel marked a significant shift from the power and influence he wielded on the outside, though he remained a figure of considerable interest within the prison system. Despite being incarcerated, Mokbel was not insulated from the ongoing tensions and rivalries that pervade prison environments. His high-profile status, combined with his criminal past, made him a target for other inmates, especially those connected to rival gangs or who held grudges linked to Melbourne's underworld conflicts. His arrest highlighted the complexities of international law enforcement cooperation and extradition procedures in dealing with globalized organized crime. On February 11, 2019, Mokbel was brutally attacked in the prison yard by a group of inmates wielding knives. The stabbing left him with multiple serious wounds, requiring emergency surgery and intensive hospital care. Reports suggested the assault was part of a power struggle among prison gangs, possibly motivated by Mokbel's continued influence or past criminal associations. Some sources speculated the attack was retaliation or an attempt to eliminate him as a threat within the prison hierarchy. The stabbing sparked a wider discussion about prison safety and the challenges of managing high-profile inmates. Barwon prison's security protocols were scrutinized, and authorities vowed to investigate how such an attack could occur despite strict controls. Mokbel survived the assault and was returned to Barwon prison. Since then, his health has reportedly declined, and his capacity to exert influence has diminished significantly. While once a dominant underworld figure, prison has drastically curtailed his power and presence. The attack underscored the dangers inherent in the prison system and reflected the violent undercurrents that continue to echo long after the gangland wars have ended. The attack on Mokbel underscored ongoing safety concerns within maximum security prisons and the challenges of managing high-profile inmates. The Lawyer X scandal is one of the most controversial episodes in Melbourne's gangland history. Nicola Gobo, a criminal defense lawyer, secretly acted as a police informant while representing high-profile criminals, including Tony Mokbel. Between 2005 and 2009, Gobo provided Victoria Police with confidential information about her clients, breaching lawyer-client privilege. This allowed police to target key figures in organized crime but raised serious ethical and legal concerns regarding fairness and the integrity of the justice system. For Mokbel, Gobo's dual role had significant consequences. While acting as part of his legal team during his drug trafficking cases, she secretly passed on information about his operations and associates. This undermined Mokbel's defense and played a part in securing his convictions. The scandal became public in 2018, prompting a royal commission to investigate police and legal professional conduct. The commission found that Gobo's actions, and the way police managed her role, compromised numerous cases, including Mokbel's. The affair exposed major systemic flaws. The Lawyer X scandal highlighted the difficult balance between effective law enforcement and protecting legal rights. It revealed the extreme measures taken to dismantle organized crime networks. After serving around 18 years in custody, Tony Mokbel was granted bail in April 2025 following successful legal challenges linked to the Lawyer X scandal. Originally sentenced in 2012 to 30 years with a non-parole period of 22 years for drug trafficking and related offenses, Mokbel's convictions were significantly affected by revelations that his former lawyer acted as a police informant. His release, which came amid strict conditions including electronic monitoring, marked a significant and controversial moment in Australia's criminal justice history. His bail was granted by the courts following a review process in accordance with legal requirements, including consideration of his time served and the impact of the Lawyer X scandal on his convictions. Conditions were imposed to monitor and manage his reintegration into the community while his legal matters are ongoing. The courts, in granting bail, must balance the original severity of the crimes with the legal merits of the challenge and any potential risk to the community. Despite the controversy surrounding his release, Mokbel met the legal requirements to be eligible for bail as his legal challenges unfolded. Authorities also imposed strict bail conditions, including electronic monitoring and restrictions on contact with known criminals, to minimize any potential risk. His release sparked debate. Some saw it as a deserved second chance after serving substantial time, while others expressed concern about the influence of a former crime boss returning to the community. Tony Mokbel's bail highlights the complex decisions involved in balancing punishment, rehabilitation, and public safety in cases involving high-profile organized crime figures, especially when systemic issues like the Lawyer X scandal come to light. His bail reignited debate over how the justice system balances punishment, rehabilitation, and community safety in cases involving notorious criminals. Tony Mokbel's story is a complex chapter in Australia's criminal history, one marked by ambition, strategic organization, and the consequences of operating at the highest levels of organized crime. His rise from suburban migrant to drug empire builder shows how criminal networks adapted and expanded in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. While Mokbel's influence was substantial, his story also reveals the limits of such power, as law enforcement efforts, legal challenges, and internal rivalries eventually brought him down. Mokbel's eventual release raises important questions about rehabilitation and public safety when dealing with high-profile offenders. Ultimately, the legacy of Tony Mokbel is a reflection of both the changing face of organized crime in Australia and the evolving responses by the justice system. His story continues to inform debates on crime, law enforcement, and the complexities of balancing justice and security in modern society.